Hello, my name's Rankin, the host of Master of Your Crafts podcast. Learning from leaders who are continuously inspired, passionate, and driven to align with their soul purpose, sharing their gifts to bring healing to others. The music is composed by Rebecca Everett. Today is episode number 7, where we will talk to Rebecca Everett and learn how she developed the mastery of music as her craft. Rebecca is currently composing and recording for TV, film, theatre, records, and performing in Toronto and internationally. A Victoria-bred, Toronto-based musical artist, Rebecca Everett has a keen melodic sense, which is ideal for a working songwriter and composer. Bespoke songs crafted for scenes in film, along with her orchestral background and cinematic feel, is a perfect match for her songwriting and composition sensibility. Since her relocation to Toronto, she's been busy co-writing and was an in-house writer for OLC. She's collaborated with many different writers in Canada, US, and Europe. Some highlights are the radio single I Remember on Shiloh's JUNO-nomination album, Picture Imperfect, and a song on Jimmy Rankin's Forget About the World JUNO nomination. Rebecca's songs have turned up on TV with placements on Degrassi, The Next Generation, Lost Girl, CH Live, CBC, and Next Star, and many upcoming film releases. Her most recent award was being granted a residency with the Slate Music Residency at a prestigious Canadian film centre for 2016 and 2017. The residency was a micro lab of songwriters and composers for film by Canada's top upcoming directors, producers, and writers. Rebecca's experience as a professional violinist, singer, and multi-instrumentalist has brought a rich tapestry of sound in a disposé of genres to her songwriting and compositions. Hello, and welcome to Rebecca.
Hello.
How are you doing today, Rebecca? You doing well?
I'm good, thank you. You?
I'm doing well. I'm excited for this conversation, especially because you have created such magical pieces musically. Well, you recorded my music for my intro, which I'm honored and proud to say that you did that. So I'm grateful for that. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm going to delve right into some of the questions that I have because I'm curious about you a little bit more.
Sure.
What is it you believe about you, and what is it you feel that defines Rebecca, who Rebecca is?
I suppose that in regards to music in my career, I really have followed a path that's always been connected to music. So for me, feeling like that is the way I like to express myself, and that's the way I can feel the most me and share the most me with everyone, feels like my method of that in this life, you know?
I love that. That's okay.
I'm not used to talking about me.
I know, I can see
making
that.
Music. So.
You've always been in the industry of music. You've always gravitated towards an instrument of some sort, because I know you play a number of instruments and taken to it so naturally and innately. What is it that aligns you with that?
When I was a very small child, I started playing violin, and that was my desire. It wasn't, my parents didn't say, you need to take violin classes. I kept asking and asking and asking, and finally they believed me. So that was my first instrument that I learned, and I loved it. I loved violin. And I guess I was around 10 years old, I went through a really traumatic experience, and it was sort of related and attached to making music and violin. I am grade 5. I won't go into all the gory details. I had this teacher who loved me. She was like a mother. I would bring my violin to class and play it for everyone, show and tell. Nice. And she would say, oh, I love you. I was Becky back then. I love you. And we really had this fairly strong bond. Anyways, we went on a camping trip, and boys came into our tent, and we got busted, and, it was all just fun, camping. And anyways, this teacher blamed me for it all, and the camping trip got canceled, and she said, I don't love you anymore. And she called me a slut. And so I was 10 years old. We went back, we were on an island off of the island I grew up on. And we went back home. There was a whole school board meeting with all the parents of all the kids that were there, all the teachers, the whole school board. And it was all about me. It was so shameful and so horrific. I was going to be Student of the Year, got stripped of my Student of the Year award, and she was calling me a slut in front of all these parents and teachers, and all we did was have boys in our tent. It was like we were 10 years old, and I got stripped of all these things, and one teacher who was really kind stood up for me. I was supposed to be the lead role in the play and sing in it. He said, we can't take that away from her. This is something that she's good at, and she needs to do this. And I think it's too important to try and take this away. And that teacher still really tried to take that away from me. But luckily, he got through to them, and I got to perform. So fast forward to the performance, and meanwhile, I've lost friends, other parents that didn't want their kids hanging out with me. And I don't know how I became the scapegoat, but anyways, the teacher had it out for me. So I remember standing on stage, like crystal clear, being up there, looking out into the audience and seeing all the parents, all the teachers, all the kids in my school, and going, okay, this is the moment where I do this or I don't. And I just went, I'm going for it. And I sang and sang and sang, and I did my, the whole play, and I felt so good. And I reflected on this over the years because it really caused me a lot of pain, it really set me on a journey. And, when as an adult, and I look back on this and I go, that was the moment. That was that key moment in my life where I consciously chose to go for it. But I think subconsciously it set me on my path to be a musician, because it was the only place that I felt safe to be myself. So after that, I quit music for a while. And then, I would always hang out with musicians. And then when I was finished high school, I went back to playing the violin again. And I started studying at the conservatory with an amazing teacher. And then, a lot other stories. I've got tons of stories. Yes. I won't tell you them all now. But fast forward, I chose the path of singing was the next big thing, and that connection back to when I was younger, where I consciously made the decision as an adult to sing, with the choice for it to be something that comes from a place of joy and love inside, and not about being perfect, kind of squeezing the life out of it, which sometimes happens when you're for me and other people are studying at the conservatory, and you have to be perfect and you're being judged, and it's like, So singing for me and songwriting became the path for me to be free and share myself unfiltered. And then I got into composing and other instruments and all kinds of things.
Beautiful. Yeah. Quite an experience, huh?
Yeah. I mean, we all have these crazy stories. think that was the big one for me that really propelled me into becoming a real musician. So, yeah.
So in an essence, or in an element, it's the music that really defines you. It's that creative expression in the way that has defined you for who you are, with all your amazing accolades of what you've been involved with, what you've produced, and where you've been, is really quite profound, of how you've been able to channel that in such a positive way.
I'm thankful that I had just a little bit of light back then, that I could see like a crack of light, and I went towards it, because it sort of saved me in a way. And I'm thankful for that. So yeah.
From that teacher to your conservatory teacher, I always believe that there are pivotal people that show up in your life that kind of just guide you and give you a safe haven to say, it's okay to grow, it's okay to be uncomfortable in this spot, like I've got you. I think those are the moments that, like you, and just like in my life, and probably like with many, those are the ones, and those are the nuggets that we often cherish. Because without those, it's not, we don't really move forward, right? We don't recognize and identify how much we've changed. So I think that's so beautiful how you've described it, and how you've put it together, of these pivotal people, and really transforming quite a negative and traumatic experience as a child, changing that to a positive and something that you can use and to fuel you rather than to hinder you. So I love that.
Thank you. And when I wasn't conscious of that, and just sort of living, as a teenager and in my early 20s, I didn't really know why I was doing music. It was just a feeling and just an energy that I was, moving with.
Yeah.
But now, when I reflect more deeply on it, I kind of start to recognize it as a path, and not just something that feels good, but something that has a purpose to it. Yeah.
I'd be really curious, not that we need to go there now, but just later on, maybe we can have this conversation later. What was it in, if I can boldly say, the little Becky trying to convince her parents to say, I want to play the violin, and I want, even though there may not have been any musicians or composers or any influences in your family, but for some reason you were hell-bent on to trying to just, this is what I want. This is what I want. So what that internal dialogue would have looked like for you is curious for me.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that fuel of what that fire in your belly, so to speak, is, or was at that time, is a pattern that you can identify as growing up and having all the successes that you have had. Can you identify that being repeated?
Interesting. Yeah. I feel like it's partially genetics. Our parents and grandparents' experiences are passed down in us, so I think my dad was a jazz musician. He died when my mom was pregnant with me, so I didn't ever get to meet him, but I think that was passed along inside of my DNA.
Yeah.
I believe that is part of it, for sure.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. So maybe I'm fulfilling a destiny in a way. So it's not necessarily just mine.
Yes. Which brings me to the point of, do you feel that you are in full alignment of your calling, of what it is you're destined here to do?
I never feel like I'm there, except for when I'm in the moment in making music, or in the moment of creation. No, I haven't arrived, that's for sure. I feel like there's so much to explore and go deeper, and just keep finding more effective ways to express myself and to share what life looks like for me with others, and hopefully reflect back and forth with others.
Yeah.
I'm definitely on a path. You know, I'm excited to see where it goes from here.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, even if the calling of what you're destined to do, of being involved with music and the energy and composing and creation and all that piece is so powerfully and so intrinsically ingrained within you, when you're not creating music or singing or writing or composing, what does Rebecca look like? What does that look and feel like?
What does that look like? Do you know what's so funny is I never listen to music anymore.
Huh.
I grew up listening to music all the time, and I haven't figured out why yet, but I feel like having space, there's something about having space to digest. For me, that is really valuable. So in my daily life, I really like to have downtime to resonate and rejuvenate. And I feel like, you know, when I'm cooking, that feels like a creative act. Yes. I love it. Absolutely. You know, and all these little things like that, you know, I love. And then there's things that I try really hard to find the creative spirit in it, like vacuuming. That's yes. Harder.
Don't we all? Don't we all? Right? Yeah. Make a pretty pattern with a vacuum or something.
Yeah.
I find that really interesting that you don't, on a day-to-day, really listen to much music or anything. Your external world, so to speak, when you're not working is very still, is very quiet.
Somewhat. Yeah. Yeah.
I find really interesting.
I love chaos and, you know, high energy experiences and things like that. But for me, they're in packages of time. I can't live in chaos all the time. Some people thrive off that high intensity energy, day to day sort of thing. And for me, I like it sort of paced out, you know?
Right.
And when it comes, it's like, yes, all right.
But you have to be ready and prepared for it though, right?
Yeah, ready and prepared, or else have had some downtime that it's the natural next thing to move to, you know?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's really interesting. So in terms of who Rebecca is, what are the attributes that you bring when you're in your flow? Be it composing or singing or collaborating with others, because I know you've done a fair bit of collaboration with others as well. What part of Rebecca really shines through and comes through, do you feel?
I have a natural approach to things. To me, it feels like a healthy balance of intellectualizing things and letting things flow when I'm in the space, you know? Mm-hmm. So for me, it feels sort of, I don't want to say effortless, but I don't have rituals and things to get me in the zone. And, you know, I don't practice. I just step into it. And I think that is something that is a strength for me.
Yeah.
And that works for me. It doesn't work for everyone, you know?
Yeah.
So I think a sort of casual approach that I have works well for me. And nice. Yeah. And I also, when I'm collaborating, I'm the kind of person that I want people to feel comfortable and feel safe and feel like the space is open. So I sort of set my energy that way so everyone can feel it's like an equal shared moment. Yeah. And hopefully that it's enjoyable and fun too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you find that that's an element that you crave for yourself when you're in collaborating or even when you're working solely yourself?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I like a naturalness and a casualness when I'm working with other people. Definitely. Mm-hmm. That's comfortable.
So when you're creating music or you're in a collaboration with somebody, other than having like an objective, whether it's for a theme song or for a show or for a movie or something, what are the other intentions that you think you would put in creating something?
Well, I started composing because for many years I've been a singer and a songwriter, and that generally sort of revolves around myself. And I love singing and I love writing songs, but I felt like I wanted to contribute to something larger and outside of me, to someone else, to contribute to someone else's vision, rather than it always being my vision. And that felt like a sort of a newer avenue for me to jump into. And composing is, I have connection going way back to composing. So, and to be able to create all different kinds of sounds, not just my voice and just a guitar or something. And I think contributing to a bigger picture, to a community, that is an intention for me that I have in my music.
We know you've done so many things. You've supported Shiloh in a JUNO nomination, and you've collaborated for TV shows and Degrassi, CBC, CH Live, and you've been really involved with a lot of very public collaborations. How did you end up getting there? Putting your intention and your focus on your craft to going into those spaces.
Well, I would say it's a combination of people helping me along the way, the joy of exploration. I did my first demo a long time ago of songs that I wrote, and I sang them. This is the first time I've ever done this. And the first 4 songs I wrote, I just recorded those because they're the ones that I had.
Okay.
And I didn't even think to record them, but my friend, who's an amazing musician, he said, "Oh, you should do a demo." And I said, "What's that?" And so, he connected me and with an amazing producer, Joby Baker. This is all in Vancouver Island. And so I did a demo, and then Joby suggested I go to a music conference. And so I went to printed some CDs, and then I met music publisher there, Robert Ott. He was totally supportive. He was in Toronto, I was in Victoria, and we developed a relationship, and I would send him songs, and eventually he started flying me down to LA to co-write with people, and Toronto, and then he ended up offering me a publishing deal. In that same time, while that stuff was going on, I made a big decision for myself to leave Victoria and move to Toronto to open myself up to more opportunities. So Robert and I didn't know we were both thinking these things at the same time. He's going to offer me a deal, and I was going to move, and it was that timing thing that happens in the universe.
Yes.
And it was pretty magical. He gave me a big start in my career here in Toronto, and and it just went from there. Yeah. And then the Canadian Film Centre that came out of a Screen Composers Guild apprenticeship I did there, and just meeting people. It's a lot of it, and then just continually putting myself out there.
Yet having the full ownership of your mastery, so of your craft. Not to say you've reached the end point, but really owning your skill sets, that this is who I am and this is what I'm bringing to the table.
Yeah, and that's also very scary.
Yeah.
Because, we all kind of want people to like what we do, right?
That's right.
You hope. And it's not the reason for doing it, but when you put it out there,
yes,
it's always nice to have feedback, that, positive energy. And I have tried a lot of different things, like different styles of music and instruments and things, experimented to find who I am in music, in the path of music. So that has helped me to master things along the way, if I may.
Yeah.
in the process of mastering. I would never say master.
Well, I don't know. I think you might be selling yourself short there just a little bit.
Well,
do you find yourself always coming back to the comfort of the violin? Does that have a special place for you now you have learned all these other instruments and tools and things like that?
The violin is a very emotional instrument for me because I had so much joy playing it, and then I kind of beat the joy out of me by when I was at the conservatory. I had an amazing teacher. He guided me so well, the mental athletics that it took to try not to fall into the trap of trying to be perfect at it. Mm-hmm. It is so challenging because you're standing up there doing solo violin, an audition or something, and people are looking for mistakes. They're actually looking for the mistakes you're making, and I'm hyper aware of that, and I'm an extremely vulnerable and sensitive person. So that was a challenge for me to sort of figure out how to let that go. And ultimately, what I ended up doing was switching my focus out of the classical world and taking a break from the violin and becoming a singer. So that's where the sort of pact I made with myself at that point was, I'm going to sing only from the love of it. And I'm not going to be perfect, and I don't care. And I want to be natural and it to be all about energy. And I know that it will develop over time, and I'll become a good singer and I'll become a good songwriter. Because it's coming from that place, you know. Occasionally pick up the violin these days for, recording or whatever I'm doing. I have a deeply emotional connection to the instrument, and it's a combination of joy and love and sort of the sadness of the frailty of being human. It all sort of mixes together for me. So, yeah.
That's interesting. How old were you when you came to that realization of switching from the classical instrument to singing, going, okay, I'm not going to be perfect at it, but I'm going to give it a shot?
I was in my mid-20s.
Okay.
Yeah. Time of change in everyone's lives. You're sort of becoming a real adult.
What is that?
I don't know yet.
I'm missing that too.
And hence the becoming.
Yeah. Do you recall whether that emotional conversation was similar to how you felt when you went on that stage as a child, going, everybody's watching me, I know what's just happened?
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah,
big time.
Did you bring it all back?
Yeah, totally. It didn't bring up visuals or conscious. I wasn't conscious of it, but definitely the feeling of being picked out, in a crowd, and all the negative energy that was surrounding that experience. Definitely, like the feeling floods in, and it's like freeze, fight or flight. And for me, I freeze. I'm like,
yeah.
I think that's probably a lifelong challenge for me to recognize those moments, and you get better at it as you continually go through these things.
One step at a time, right?
Yeah.
One experience at a time. We become better equipped to deal with the cards that are dealt with us based on the experiences we've had.
Yeah. And that's why singing's my refuge.
Yeah.
Because I don't experience that at all with it. I love singing.
Beautiful. Is there a part or an element within you that lights up? So you talked about, yes, it's singing that is your refuge, but what does it actually feel like in you when you are in that space of the world is yours and you're it?
Yeah, that's a difficult thing to describe. I mean, I think everyone feels that in different times and in different ways, you know, but it's that feeling of being connected to yourself and being yourself and sharing yourself and being seen, and sort of generosity of giving and taking, you know, with the audience. The sharing, that base of sharing is a supportive and open and sort of loving space. It feels like a great shared energy connection, I guess.
But do you feel more connected with yourself?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels like freedom in a sense.
Beautiful. I love that. I love that. That's really blessed to be in a space to have that experience.
Yeah. It's, I'm always thankful that people show up or or buy a CD or something, you know. Every single time I am always honored and so happy to connect. Yeah.
Beautiful experience. So what's next for Rebecca?
Oh, that's a good question.
What do you want to do next?
I'm sort of in this place right now where I'm observing things and letting ideas move through me. I have all kinds of projects I'm in the middle of and working on and wanting to start. And, you know, there's never a lack of that. Yeah, as far as any big changes, I'm not sure. We'll see. I mean, I always, in the back of my mind, I have sort of a multimedia project that I want to do. There's an idea rumbling around there, and I can compose and songwrite and sing and bring all the elements together. And I love working with dancers. Yeah, might be something there.
Yeah.
Film and, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. To hear what
we shall see.
When it shows up and how you navigate through that.
Yeah. It's hard to know sometimes whether to jump on something or whether to digest it and be more methodical about it. And
that's the anticipation, I guess, we're all waiting for. Right?
Me too.
The anticipation of what is to come and significance of the abundance that can show up, be it through pivotal people that we've met or just an idea that comes into fruition and things just line up as magically as they do, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I'm excited for you.
Thank you, Naranjan.
I am excited for you because I think you do some really magical pieces, and to be able to put all of the elements together on a grander scale is it's going to be powerful.
It's slowly formulating.
Yeah. So Rebecca, I want to say thank you for sharing parts of you that you may not necessarily share with random strangers, so to speak, and allow a glimpse of the inner part of Rebecca and the vulnerability there. So thank you for sharing that. And I'm trusting and hoping that your wisdom and your experiences will support and guide others on finding their mastery and finding their passion and finding that little voice of fulfillment that everybody, I think, is seeking in this world. So
yeah, and I'm always happy to help if anyone ever has questions or wants feedback. Like I'm always happy to jam.
That's wonderful. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. If anybody is interested in connecting with Rebecca, website rebeccaeverett.ca. And I want to say once again, thank you so much, Rebecca.
Yeah, thanks, Naranjan. Thanks for having me.
I'm Naranjan, and you've been listening to Master of Your Crafts podcast. Please subscribe, rate, and review, and join me next week for another episode. Thank you for listening.